For those who watched the hesped in Eretz Yisrael, it ended about 6 in the morning this morning. You may not know that the kavura itself, because of the huge number of people, took many, many hours. And those who are going to be speaking to us from Eretz Yisrael are pretty much right back from the kavura itself. Rav Miller, Shlita, spent many, many decades at Lichtenstein's side, working together with him in the Bris Kollel, and Rav Miller will say, via Skype, several words of hesped.
My dear Talmidei Beis HaMedrash, what can I tell you about Oreinu v'Rabbeinu that would give you a sense of his greatness, that would give you a sense of our loss? How can one distill a yovel over 60 years, 50 years of a very, very special relationship of my being his Talmud and his being my Rav Muvhak? I walked into this year as a senior in MTA at the age of 16 and had the tremendous siyata d'shmaya of never walking out. And then coming on Aliyah, simultaneous, and rejoining him in the Bris Kollel for close to 40 years. What can I share with you that would explain my feelings when I did Kriya this morning at the Levaya? A sense of loss of a source of inspiration, a loss of a wellspring of sound advice. I had lost a spiritual father. What comes to mind is his smile, his warmth, his sensitivity, his love of his Talmidim, his ability to overcome his natural bashfulness, which stems from his total anava. And he worked on overcoming that bashfulness in order to connect with us because he loved us. I have in my hand a letter that he sent to my father. Not only to my father, but to the father of all of his students. An individual letter, not just a grade, but a comment in which he wrote what he viewed in an illusionary manner as my positive qualities, but quite honestly described those areas that I still had to develop out of love of his Talmidim. Then what comes to mind are his very, very special midot. His patience, his hasmada, which I just heard the end of Rav Khan Shlita's hesped, every word is true. His mesirut, his total dedication. His work ethic, as though Yaakov Avinu is peering over his shoulder. Ki b'kol kochi avadati et avichem. Yaakov Avinu, from whom we learn in Hilchos Schiras of the Rambam, of what it means to be the ideal employee. And Kach Rav Lichtenstein never missed a shiur. Never, even he would come from a plane, that which would be for a normal human being an act of total exhaustion, and he would come and give a shiur for an hour and a half because that was viewed as his responsibility, as his dedication. And not only in terms of his work ethic. There's a pasuk in Sefer Shmuel that Dovid was macharker b'kol kocho. That pasuk was written with Ruach HaKodesh. That was in emes. So I can be made that everything that Lichtenstein did, he did b'kol kocho. With a total dedication. Be it his learning, be it his davening, be it his dancing at the wedding of a Talmud, being the way in which he gave tzedakah, and even in those early years when he played basketball with his Talmidim, it was b'kol kocho. He had a tremendous ethic of hakaras hatov. When he was building the yeshiva in Har Etzion with superhuman strength, Rav Lam Shlita reached out to him, would he mind also being in charge of the Grus Kollel? And he turned to me and he told me, Dovid, I have hakaras hatov. Why you gave me my first position? They were the first ones who gave me the ability to be a Maggid Shir. And so I'll take it and see how long I can deal with it. And for year after year, close to 40 years, he came with difficulty until he was no longer able to come and give shir, only out of hakaras hatov. When my oldest son got married, Rabbi Lichtenstein walked over to my machutin and said, I hear there's a woman here whose name is XY. Can I meet her? And so my machutin took him over to this woman, and Rabbi Lichtenstein said, you probably don't remember. My name is Aharon Lichtenstein. 50 years ago, I came to Baltimore as a refugee from Europe. I dressed like a European kid. I had short pants, I had long socks, and no one would play with me. But I remember, as a little girl, you played with me. So I want to thank you. Hakaras hatov without end. But what would really define Rebbe? What would define him is his midah of yashrus, his total integrity, his emes, chesed ve'emes nifgashu. He was the yashar of the Nitziv in his Akdama to Sefer Bereshis, Sefer HaYesharim. The Yashrus of Avraham, the Yashrus of Yitzchak, of Yaakov, the Merkava of the Shechina. It was frightening to ask Rabbi Lichtenstein a question that had anything to do with the world of ethics. Frightening and inspiring, because you knew from the very beginning you would get no quasi-heterim. You would only get the emes hatzrufa. You would get the pure emes of that which he would do, the way he would behave in this circumstance. He was the yashar of Rav Yehuda Hanasi. Eze derech yashara sheyavar bo ha'adam. Kol shehi tif'eres lo oseha v'tif'eres lo min ha'adam. Rav Lichtenstein's life was one of tif'eres, one of harmony, integrating that which seemingly are opposites into one seamless whole. This was what was unique in his derech halimud, and this was what was unique in his hashkafas olam. In his derech halimud, he would investigate every logical possibility with tremendous intellectual honesty. And then he would build a structure, a conceptual structure that would encompass the entire sugya, integrating all the possibilities with tremendous bekius and creativity. But one felt also the perspiration. One felt also the amol haTorah, yagata umatzata ta'amin. And he enjoyed repeating to us the formulation, it may be X and it may be Y, but it may also be both. Many times you can have a combination, and that was his worldview, that all of life was one whole. All of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's creation was meaningful, and if it's meaningful, it's important, and it can link into Torah, be it the humanities, be it mankind, be it relationships, everything has a place. Rebbe was a living Sefer Torah, and to his Talmidim he was a living Sefer Musar. He was larger than life, but so human. He was a giant, but so unassuming. Such tzniut and such chen. One of his children used the metaphor, Sulam mutzav arza v'rosho magia hashamayma. an individual, a Tzelem Elokim, whose Avodas Hashem connected Shamayim V'Aretz. And what he showed each and every one of us by personal example, and I hope that this will impact you also in terms of your own lives, is what we can do, what a human being can do with the gifts that HaKadosh Baruch Hu grants us, if only we take them to the maximum. Hinei sulam hu tzav arza, v'rosho magia hashabayma. Tehei nishmaso tzrura b'tzror hachayim.
Rabbi Carmichael.